Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we are taking on the newest Shinryu fight, which is Aerith's fight. And so I'm taking in Aerith, Zack, and Penelo. So I'm bringing Penelo back. And the reason why is Penelo works incredibly well with Aerith Echo. So, well, the thing is her FR, like her conditions are so free, like anybody can echo it really well. But Aerith just gets these massive gains. We're talking like 150% to the HP gauge, which is absolutely incredible, right? Now, this fight is a tough fight. Like, this is a very hard fight, and they are selling Aerith very hard. A couple of things that you have to watch out for in this fight is the enemy puts very powerful buffs on themselves, so you got to make sure you hit Seal Evil pretty early in the fight with Aerith so that the enemies can't buff themselves. So there are probably players that just used Aerith on this that maybe thought the fight wasn't that hard, but you didn't experience the buffs the enemy puts on themselves. One buff in particular makes it so you pretty much can't damage them. So it's really nasty if you're not prepared for this fight. So if you're not going to use Aerith, you gotta have somebody else that can wipe those buffs off very easily, right? So that's something to watch out for. And then the other thing is when they go into their force time, it is an incredibly long force time. It's like a 15 or 20 turn force, and they can't be damaged during that either. So you got to be able to cancel that out. Now their force is fairly easy to cancel. Actually, Penelo's force will cancel it because they have two requirements: one that Zack can meet and one that Aerith can meet. But the one Aerith can meet is just using any FR that doesn't deal damage, pretty much. So Penelo's also works. So this whole team is set up really well to handle this. You just got to make sure you don't echo away all of your forces, because you're going to need to do more than one. Because the other thing with this boss, it's two phases. So I think the part where you can really get caught, and where I've gotten caught before, is you'll have them set up with Seal Evil so they can't buff, all that stuff. So we're setting up Seal Evil right now. So once again, this is a debuff on the enemies that makes it so they cannot buff themselves. The issue will come is that if you basically get this enemy down to like 20% or something, he will actually reset and get all of his HP back and go into like a new phase. And when he does that, he cleanses all of his debuffs. So the issue I've had on some runs on this was I was like mid-force with like really high gauges when he switched. And then what happens is if you deal too much damage before Aerith gets a turn, then he starts putting buffs on himself, and it can actually really wreck you, because then you'll like start not being able to damage them. So you got to make sure you're in a position where Aerith can reset the Seal Evil right after he goes into the new phase. And then you also got to make sure you have a force ready to go, because you'll see the enemy ramps their force very quick. So you have to have force to like deal with that. Because during the force time, the only way to deal damage is with force attacks. But ideally, you just want to do a force that will just cancel out their force time. But they gain really quick. I tried doing a Rubicante solo, and it doesn't work because he can't ramp up quick enough being solo. And the enemies just go into their force, and then they just kill you, basically. So, yeah, it's a tough one. Maybe somebody out there has done a Rubicante solo, but once I started seeing the mechanics, it's just like, yeah, that's the one thing that really kind of stops Rubicante cold in his tracks, is when enemies have phases where you just can't deal damage, and if Rubicante doesn't have a way to deal with that, then you're kind of screwed, right? So I'm sure you could get it done if you brought the right calls and stuff, but I just said, no, I got the characters, right? Like, my deal isn't like I'm going to try to force certain characters through fights. I'm going to do what I feel like is the easiest. So I just felt like Zack, Aerith, and Penelo was kind of the easiest way to get this done. Zack works really well here too, because the boss is very aggressive. They have thresholds where they are going to attack a lot, and Zack really helps you tank that. Aerith, actually, her BT effect, which we have up right now, that healing comes into clutch, because I've had runs end before because I got through the fight just fine, but one of the thresholds did too much damage to me at the end, and then I didn't meet the HP requirement. I believe in this fight, I am commentating over pre-recording, but I believe in this fight, Aerith's overhead actually saves me from meeting the HP requirement part of it. Because remember, it will trigger anytime your health goes below 50% or you die, it'll full revive and heal you. Her BT effect is so cool, by the way, because if you notice, there's literally no turn count on it. Her BT will last forever. It'll last until somebody goes below 50%. So the nice part about that is you can use her BT very early in a fight, and you're going to have follow-ups and her BT auras for the entire fight provided you don't fall below 50%, which is really good. Now, this fight's very aggressive because it's trying to showcase Aerith, so you will most likely fall below 50% and trigger it at some point. But dude, in a normal situation where maybe the boss isn't crazy aggressive, this is why Aerith's going to be so good. You're going to pop that BT effect early, and you're just going to have that thing for the whole fight, and it's never going to run out, which is really awesome because she's got those Garnet-like follow-ups, which I believe the follow-up does scale on the stored HP, because you'll notice as I store more HP, the damage goes up a lot on those lasers. I believe when it's fully stacked, it fills up at, what, like 200,000 HP or something like that. The lasers, I think their base value does like 500k. And 500k for like free off turn is really good. And then in force time, she's doing like millions of damage with that follow-up. So it is really, really good, right? All right, so we got the first phase down to like 30%. And I decide, you know, I could have echoed there, but like, no, that would have been bad. I want to save some, because this wasn't my first time doing the run. So I understood the fight a little bit better, that I can't just like blow all my echo and everything right away. And the gauge is already maxed, right? So now there's Suicide Drop, which does a lot of damage. We got the laser follow-up. Now he's in phase 2, but he lost his debuff, so we got to steal evil. This worked out really great where it ended on an Aerith turn. So I could just steal evil immediately, because otherwise they're going to rebuff. And you do not want this guy to hit the buffs. Trust me, you don't. And look, he's got a million thresholds, and they're very easy to hit with this high force time, right? So like immediately after one hit, he would have tried to buff. So getting that steal evil right away was very key. So that worked out very well in this fight. Now Zack, I decide, yeah, let's go ahead and go big here and go big damage since we're at max gauge and just take a huge chunk of his health out. So there's a 26 mil shot. So yeah, we just ate through some thresholds there. And once again, you can't buff because of Seal Evil. Really showcasing that part of her kit very well. And then, yeah, really big damage there with Penelo. And then there's another hit, but we were able to tank it. And notice we did not fall below 50%, so we still have Aerith's BT effect. And notice Zack's BT coming through where Penelo's got the Brave Shield now. Because the other thing that happened is we lost the lock. And Zack did not have a chance to relock after he switched over, but because of his BT effect, we got Brave Shields on everybody. So now Zack can go in. We'll use the LD. That should reapply the lock. And now he's got force. Or no, that did not reapply the lock, so we'd have to use a different attack to do that. But that's fine. So now they're in force. So now it's like, all right, we've got to hit an FR, because now we just can't do damage. So I just decide to, what do I do here? Do I just HP attack here? I don't even remember what I did here. I was thinking about it. I'm like, what do I do? Yeah, I mean, a little Brave gain, a little bit healing just to make sure that we're good. Might as well top off because we're not like in a force time, right? Oh yeah, I actually decided to force charge here, which is what you want to do, right? Because we can't just go into force. So yeah, I decide let's just force charge because we're not dealing any damage. So really, by not force charging, we're just wasting turns at this point. So that's the other beautiful thing about Aerith, why she's so good, is she's also a force charger on top of everything else that she's doing. And while we're force charging, you see we very easily hit the cap on our HP storage. So we got that full 200,000 stored up. So now our off turns will be hitting good damage. Obviously when we're not in force, because they're only going to hit zeros right now. And we do still have a burst phase we can use. So I believe we do Zack burst phase on the next one, I think is what we do. But we still do Penelo force for the main force, because her force is so free. Once again, like I said, every character is going to hit the maximum HP gauge on it. So we can use her FR and then still do like a Zack burst phase and get a ton of damage out, right? Alright, so we're basically now ready to go into force. We got Penelo up, so we're going to pop Penelo's force. This is a non-damaging force, so it works out so well. The other combo I've seen is, instead of Penelo, I think I saw some runs with Tifa, which I could definitely see that, because Tifa's damage is just insane, and then you can put launching on and do all that craziness. I'm trying to remember, I do think I have Rain's Call, so I think I might actually set up with Rain's here with Zack and go into his burst, I think is what I end up doing here. I know I've attempted that on some of the runs, I just don't remember if it was this particular one that I have recorded, right? Alright. So Fatal Dance, that uses up our first turn of force. Zack is up, and I think I just go into it now, because I think I just Rains, and then go into burst, because then I could come out and hit the summon if I need to. Because if I wait for another Zack turn, like the force turns are going to be like really low, and I want to go in early. So Yeah, I'm pretty sure I opted to just Reigns here. Yep, so we're going to Reigns. And then that's going to set up with our launching. This will still do really good damage, right? Like, you don't want to forget that Reigns call itself actually does very good damage because we got the Reigns follow-up. So it's not like a wasted move during a force. Like, watch the damage we're going to have here. This will be really good. Yeah, so like 4 million and we barely even started the force gauge, right? So that's pretty good. And then we're already hitting over a mil with Aerith's laser. So that's nice. Now we go Zack burst. And because we're in Penelo's force, it's just free. We're going to be getting our like percentages on everything we do. So we use Rush Assault with the free move because that's like one of its strongest attacks. You just want to keep grinding that thing over and over again. And now we got all the launching, so now the damage is coming through really hard. And then the hope here is that we just get him to the end and finish him off, right? Now we are going to see Aerith's BT effect come in very clutch here. You'll see. This almost was like, you can see how this run can really mess with you, even if you have a really clean run, because this is a really clean run, and we still almost lost this thing. So yeah, this is not an easy boss, which also makes the Shinryu co-op very difficult if you're playing with other people. You almost have to be coordinated, because if people don't understand what they're doing, you don't do things right. Like, you can mess up and like waste the force turn and stuff, like, right? Like, and you can waste a lot of damage, and then people will just quit on you. So you got to be really careful. I would say the Shinryu co-op, you might as well just solo it and then use your tickets. That's what that is what I would recommend doing. And you're gonna need a lot of points here. All right, so we took HP damage there, but we're still good. But remember, the thresholds will interrupt even if you're in a burst phase, right? So another Rush Assault because it's free after using the LD. And then we're obviously going to save his force attack until the end because it's very strong. So we're going to make that the second to last thing we press. But yeah, with the launch damage and everything, we're going to get this guy pretty much dead here. And still a fairly quick fight, but yeah, I just see this guy needing 2 force times. I don't know how you get this done in one. Maybe it's possible, but that's kind of what seemed logical. You do 1 force for each of his phases, and then you're pretty good to go. Alright, so next attack should be the FR attack. Yep, and more launch damage. We take it. So much damage we have on this one? Alright, yeah, so like 19 million already. This one right here. So right there, we dip below, and what would have happened here is Aerith's BT effect went and full healed us. Had we not had that, it would have been tough here because now Zack's looking like he might finish the fight, and we'd come right out of the fight and be too low on HP, and we wouldn't meet the HP requirement. So this happened to me on a previous failed run where I was like right at the end of this force time, and it was either like I had to heal or do the damage, and if I didn't do the damage, then it would literally, the last 10% could take you forever if you don't have another force to go into. So I decided to attack because it was a healing attack that I had done, but it didn't heal me enough, and I missed the HP because the HP requirement's low. It's like 5,000 HP. You can't take much damage at the end of this thing, right? Alright, so then we go through and finish off there, and I believe that's the fight, right? Yep, there we go. It's done. So had we not gotten that mid-turn healing from Aerith, this would have been a failed run. Because Zack would have had to do his BT finisher, and it would have killed him, and we would have not met the HP requirement. So, very glad that the Aerith BT effect was up, and there you go, we got it done. So, anyways, guys, and it's a low turn count, right? 55 turns, like, it's not, if you don't do this just right, it can definitely be tricky. So, anyways, let me know how your runs are going. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.